I just came from a lunch with a ex of mine. Her name is Carol Brown. She's a little older than I think she's like a couple of years older than I. And we came in contact with each other last night while I was out. And so we had agreed to get together this morning to go to breakfast. And through our conversation, she had brought up a morning when I had decided to go to church with her. And I forget what church this was, but it's a church that started out here close to like 12 years ago. And it's a popular, quote unquote, Black church. And what she noticed, at least she brought this up to me this morning, what she had noticed about me is it was one particular morning, Sunday morning, that the church had decided to honor the women elders. You know, I say the mother's board, the mothers of the church. And so they made certain that everyone else came and sat down. And so the pastor had got up and he said that we are going to honor the mothers of our generation and the mothers of the church. And so she had noticed that when the pastor said, "Can everyone please stand that we may honor and show our appreciation to the mothers of our community and the mothers board of the church." She said what she noticed is that everyone in the church stood up except me. And even that morning, she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "Stand up." I'm like, "I'm not standing up." And so after we had left and she was dropping me off because she had asked me to go and I had agreed, she said, "How come you didn't stand for the and show honor towards the mother's board?" And I told her, "Because I have no honor for them." And she, you know, once we got to my place, we sat down in my living room and she said, "Can you please explain this to me?" And so I told her, of course, when you make a comment like that, obviously there's a past behind it. You saw some things and you were made to feel some things. And like I say all the time, I come from the village in Chicago. It was a place called Chatham Village. And Chatham Village was created for people who had careers and not just common jobs. Okay. Now, there were some people who had jobs there, you know, very high paying jobs like sanitarian, you know, sanitary workers, you know, like garbage men, people who worked at the post office, you know, things like that. People who worked within the system. Now, even though there are some people who had career-related people also work in the system. But due to the fact that they have careers, you have a little bit more flexibility within the system. And so you make more money and you have better benefits and all of that, but I don't want to get into that. But she had asked me, "Why do you feel like that about their generation?" And I opened up and told her that they are the generation that compromised. They are the generation that has these kids feeling and thinking the way that they are thinking now, because they compromised and they gave birth to what they claim to hate, which is the hip hop generation. And I have not heard one of those elders take claim to that charge. And I refuse to pay them honor because I feel as though they failed this generation. They failed this generation, and they don't deserve honor, as far as I'm concerned. Those are the ones who were, after the 60s, after they saw all of our leaders shot down and killed, instead of them coming together, organizing on how they could help make our community more stronger for the youth that was coming from them, they started dancing down the Soul Train line. They got involved in the disco era, where everybody was throwing their hands in the air and shaking them like they just don't give a fuck. So I have no honor for them, because they created a mess. Now, we can say what we want against modern Black women and even modern Black men, but they did not create themselves. I mean, even if you go into the even if you go into the Bible, it says you were born in sin and shaped by the iniquities of the world. So it's basically saying, when you were born into this world, you were pure. You were pure in nature and in spirit. However, some people, before you were pulled from the womb, failed you because they compromised their moral principles and their responsibilities. And because of that, you come into a world and therefore an environment full of the iniquities, and due to the fact that you had some people who were irresponsible and not telling you what you were born into. And by you being an innocent child, you're an innocent mind. Let's just say that. An innocent mind and spirit, you come up in an environment that you perceive as the norm. However, what has shaped the current norm were the immoralities of those who compromised before you came into the world. And so basically, what I'm telling you is that you were not flawed before you came out of your mother's womb. You were contaminated by the world that you were born into. So you are not your flaws. You are not your flaws. By nature, you are not your flaws. Or like the church tells you, you're a sinner even when you're born. Absolutely not. Because you haven't conformed to anything. I heard someone not too long ago say that a whole lot of iniquities and characteristics are passed down to you inside of the womb. I believe that, because as time went on, I made certain that all of the ill characteristics that I saw in my parents, I spent hours of prayer, I spent hours of meditation, and I spent hours and days and months and years of close observation to make certain that I did not embrace and commit those flaws that were passed down in the womb. So what a lot of us are going to have to understand is that you are not your flaws. Everything that you unconsciously submitted to and conformed to of this world is sitting up inside of you. And once you understand how to go into meditation and things are revealed to you that you recognize is not of your own nature. However, these flaws were blindly or unconsciously conformed by the environment in which you were born into, then it's up to you to make the conscious choice to discard those, because those things are not useful. Those things are not you. Those things are the results of a world that has fallen into the shadows of immorality. And those things are not going to change. You know, this is why the word says, conform not to the things of the world. Your mind can be renewed. However, your mind is not going to be renewed by the Creator or Jesus. You have to make the choice. It's like he said, go and sin no more. He's not involved in that, nor is the Creator involved in that. He's telling you, choose to move forward and end the immorality within. Just stop it. Just don't do it no more. And not only physically, but don't conform to wicked doctrine. Don't conform to the conflict. Don't conform to the perversions that you see that are in society, in spite of how our very human hormones are titillated. If it is destructive, don't conform to it. Now, if you want to conform to it, it's a choice. But if you want to get back to the purity of yourself and your nature, it is possible, but it starts within. No preacher is going to be able to do it for you when he says, come up, get in line for some prayer. There ain't nothing he can do for you. He can't lay his hands on you and change anything because he's just as jacked up as you are. We are all in this together. There is not a pastor, including Minister Farrakhan, who is divorced from what we suffer with ourselves each day that we live. And once we understand the destruction of looking up to others in comparison to ourselves, once we end that, that's your first step to redemption and restoration. Don't look up to anyone. Don't look up to these celebrities, because I know a lot of celebrities out here and I know them personally. And that's not boasting. I know a lot of celebrities. I've been living in Las Vegas since 1987, November the 22nd, 1987. I got here at 12 midnight. I've come in contact with a lot of celebrities, a lot. And those people are not happy, bro. And sis, they're not happy. With all of their success, with all of their money, you think this system is going to let them live in peace? Absolutely not. There's a price that you have to pay for that particular lifestyle. They're just not going to allow you to see it because they're liars. They want you to think that their life is flawless and without struggle, because you can be a billionaire, you can still be struggling because of the powers that be that are allowing you to live as such. As a lot of you know, everything in life is starting to become digital. Paper money and coins is going into extinction. Extinction. I always have problems saying that. And the reason why I bring that up is because when you live in a system to where everything is going digital, you no longer have any control over your funds, any control over your life. You can have as much money as Brother Denzel Washington and Oprah Winfrey combined. But if they want you to suffer, you saw what they did to Brother Kanye West. The only thing they did was press a button. And he no longer had access to his wealth, because we're living in a digital reality today. So basically, if you're wealthy, don't pump your chest too much. You're allowed to be wealthy. They can break you overnight, overnight. So due to the fact that they're showing you that they have that much power over your life, we're back to the slavery days. And the digital world is the whip, and they holding it over your funds and everything. And they're telling you, you either do what we say or we'll press a button. And we will prevent you from having access to your funds, because we have already made your funds, and therefore your self-worth, we've made you believe that your self-worth lies in your network. We've got you believing that. And due to the fact that you believe it, all we have to do to make you feel like you're nothing, press a button and prevent you from getting to your funds. You can't, like brother Floyd Mayweather, have, throwing your money around. Bro, that's going extinct. What are you going to do when this digital world takes over? Because it's coming, brother. With the rise of technology, it's coming. So I bring all of that up is because the world is going into a dark place, and you have to know these things. Our youth their future was compromised by the elders that I mentioned earlier. And now the youth is going into a world, as well as we are, to where everything is becoming digital. So now, not only have we lost control as a community and as human beings, now we're losing control of our money. So what's left? Because they've made us all think that our worth is tied into how much money we have. This is the reason why our community is always talking about, you broke. You broke. This high value man thing, simply because of his wealth. That doesn't imply that he's a good man. It only implies that he's financially stable. But that financially stable man could take you to his condo or mansion or house or whatever the hell he has, and beat the living hell out of you. You want to know why? Because he's a grown-ass boy, and you felt like you was getting ready to get together with somebody simply because of his money. But he was broke on moral standards. So this is the reason why I told my ex, I'm not standing up for them. I don't honor them, because they had plenty time to get it together. But they was too busy dancing down the Soul Train line, getting involved with this disco era, when everyone that I saw, including my mother, was going to the discos, doing drugs right there at the bar. It was hip to do cocaine. Yeah, man, I'm gonna do me a few lines. I used to hear people boast about destroying themselves. Yeah, man, I'm gonna go down here and do me a few lines, or I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do me a few lines, and then I'm gonna smoke me a joint, and I'm just gonna chill and go to sleep. Death. That's all that is. It's death. Self-destruction. And coming up in Chicago, I've seen a lot of beautiful brothers and sisters throw their lives away simply because of the trend, the changing of the trends. When I was a little boy, I used to see them going back and forth to school from 8th grade all the way through high school. I saw the innocence. And then when the elders compromised, all of a sudden, Emmett wasn't looking the same. His brother who I grew up with. He wasn't looking the same no more. He looked the kind of shrouded, skeletal type. Because he got strung out on crystal meth and acid. A lot of people that I saw grow up ended up going into darkness and dying. It's a shame. I got back in touch with my big bro, Jerry Johnson out here in Las Vegas. And he gave me the update on a whole lot of people that I was wondering about. And the majority of those people who I asked about have passed away. And if not, they're on their way to passing away because of their habits. It's just a shame. This is a video about the danger of compromising. Now, if we don't want the community to go into darkness with the rest of the world, there are a lot of things that we are going to have to discard here from this culture. Like this simp thing when it comes to our Black men. Brothers, it's nothing wrong with you being yourself. If you were raised up as a gentleman, then you continue to be that gentleman. Black woman, if you was raised up to be a lady, discard all that feminist stuff because you don't need it. You don't need it. You want to know why? Because you're natural. You're naturally the most feminine women on this planet. Study your history. When you go over there to get to Great Britain, to London, England, to France, all of those schools over there for modeling, when Great Britain, when the Ethiopians used to create their dresses, you know, those dresses that they used to wear with the small waist and everything, what the Europeans over there, what the British came to understand is that even when they put their women in these dresses, they did not know how to walk in them. And I'm pretty sure that we still see this day a lot of white women who are dressed in these classy dresses, but they just don't know how to walk. I don't care what a Black woman puts on, she is going to work it. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because what a lot of British found out when they went over there to Africa and they saw the women walking around after they came from the river to get water. They saw how the women would put the huge bosses on their head, and they saw how elegant the Black women would walk. Their arms and the way that they walk. So when they took some of the women back to Great Britain, France, and all of that, they put those Black women, those African women on the plantation, and they allowed these women to continue the culture of their foremothers. And they saw how the women were even working on the plantations. And when I was in London, England, I talked to an older gentleman. He was 98 years old. He was 98 years old. And he said those were some of the strongest women on the planet, because even though they were oppressed on those plantations over here, he's talking about the women that were there. in London, England, as well over here in Babylon, which is America. He has said, the reason why I say those women were the strongest that we've ever seen is because even though they were oppressed and abused and raped and everything, when they would get their water, they still would walk with that beautiful grace and dignity and integrity. I bring all of that up is because when they noticed that, it was the African women who taught the European woman how to walk upright with grace. And simply because the white women didn't want to walk around with a vase on their head, the black women told them, put a book on your head and walk like that. And then when some of the older British women or French women, they saw this, they discarded the black women and they taught them. This is where you get the modeling school walk. All of those things. This is why the walks, even on the runways together, can't nobody do it like you, black woman. Nobody can do it like you. I don't care what you put a black woman in, she can work that dress. Whether it's short or long. Whether she's sleazy or whether she's a lady, she can work that dress, bro. I bring all of this up because I want us as black men to not forget, in spite of these, what is called modern day black women, don't forget what they were before they became what they are. I want black women to understand what you are so that you will think back to what you were and then you make a choice. What do you want to be? What do you want to be? Not only to us black men, what do you want to be to your children? What do you want to be to your grandchildren? Let's get back to being ourselves. Let's just get back to being ourselves, because the elders have compromised. And because of their compromise, this is the mess that we're in. And see, me, David Brayboy, a lot of you are like, who is this guy? I'm someone who did not conform to everything that was around me, in spite of my coming up on the south side of Chicago. You want to know, I've even come to know that my disgust for cigarettes, drinking, drugs, and everything, it reveals that I'm supposed to be here passing on this information. Because I'm not going to be no hypocrite. I'm not going to sit here and say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And yet still in my past, I did it all. Because a lot of people sometimes say, well, the people who did it all are the people who are enabled to talk about it. I agree with that. But the people who didn't do it all are also in that same category. Whether you did it and survived or you didn't and survived, you're still in the category to where you can pass on that information. So my eyes have seen a lot of things and I never conformed. I saw a lot with these eyes, a lot, my whole life. I've exposed myself to a lot of things. I play the violin, I play the piano, I play the guitar. You know, I could sing a little bit. I'm a martial artist, I'm a pro boxer, I'm a lot of things. But all of those things mean absolutely nothing if I can't love you openly and freely. It doesn't matter how much my books and my success in the stock market brings me. That doesn't mean anything if I can't love you and if I can't have a peace of mind. What I want and what I desire is for us to get back to being flawless. Because you can live in a world like this and be flawless. Once you recognize that your environment is cluttered with areas of contamination and objects of self-destruction, if you choose them, then you actually can go and sin no more. And you can live today that innocent life that you first experienced in the womb of your mother. It is possible. It is indeed possible. So, as I always say at the end of my videos, with that being said, I greet everyone, beautiful afternoon, and I just wanted to share some thoughts because you were on my mind this morning when I woke up. So I wanted to say, I'm starting to get a lot of good messages about my the series Blinded by Our Disappointments. I have a couple of panels who would like to go into a discussion about a lot of things that I said. And I just told them, as long as it's constructive and it's not chaotic, I don't mind attending, because that doesn't imply that I think I'm better than anyone, because I'm not. My thing is that it can't be chaotic, because if you're going to talk about something as vital as the betterment, as the betterment of our people, then it can't be chaotic, people talking over each other or anything like that. It has to be a sound environment, sound minds, which reminds me, whenever Isaac Hayes would perform, I remember one time Isaac Hayes was getting ready to perform in a time in Chicago called the Chicago Fest. And the Chicago Fest was a time where all of the restaurants in Chicago would just give away food. And I mean, they would just give it away. And at the same time, they would have people in Grant Park, because that's where it took place. People like I said, Brother Isaac Hayes, Sister Shaka Khan with her beautiful self. I almost cried when I saw Shaka Khan, because she's just so beautiful, And staple singers, it's just a whole lot of, it was just a beautiful time. And so when we would get down there, when it was time for Isaac Hayes to perform, he said, only one condition I will perform. And he said, through his manager, that there can't be any conflict going on in the audience. He can't have people trying to come up on stage and break the rules like that. Everything has to be in order and respectable. Unless it is that way, he said that he can't perform. Choice of words. He didn't say that he won't perform. He said he's unable to perform. So he was basically saying that his performance had everything to do with the humility of it the environment. He could give his best performance within an environment that was peaceful. I bring that up because within our community, the conflict has to end. The attack of the women to the brothers to the men, our attack on our youth, saying that this youth is no good. We have to remember this youth today did not create themselves. They are a manifestation of the compromise and the irresponsibility of those before them. So when they were born into a world, the iniquities that was created by those before them conformed them into being what they are this day. So we have to keep that in mind. And so with that being said, I hope everyone have a beautiful afternoon, and thank you for listening. And as I always say, everyone stay human. Peace.